What's the deal with Toph Beifong's kids? Let's talk again about the gap years between Avatar: The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra. Hello friends and family members, I'm Megan, and welcome back to another Avatar theory on the Fangirl. But before we get started, what the heck happened to Hockey? He went to take a letter to Toph's parents and then just never returns. Did the Beifongs eat Hockey? Did they just keep him as a new pet? Why didn't the Beifongs reunite with their daughter by the end of the series? I'm afraid I don't have any answers for the case of the vanishing Hockey, but I do have some thoughts on Lin and Suyins Fathers. So, The Legend of Korra gives us just a little bit of information between what happened to Toph for all those years between the series. Toph basically became chief of police in Republic City and had 2 daughters. Toph's oldest daughter Lin followed her into the Force, while her youngest daughter Suyin fell in with the Terra Triad and was basically forced out of town to avoid being arrested. That put a big rift between Lin the arrestor and Suyin the arrestee, and the 2 sisters didn't speak for 30 years because of it. Now, while Lin stays in Republic City to do her policing duties as a metal bender, Su, who took off to live with her grandparents, eventually leaves their care, travels the world, and then founds the metal bending city of Zaofu. Toph even lives in Zaofu for a while before wandering off into the wild to find enlightenment, which means basically Toph spends her whole life doing whatever she wants. Hashtag life goals, right? But even though that all sounds like a ton of information, there's still plenty we don't know. For instance, neither Lin nor Su know who their father is because, in much Toughness, she seemed to have her way with a dude and then move on with her life. It's almost strange that Toph never finds any kind of romantic fulfillment in Avatar: The Last Airbender or in The Legend of Korra. I mean, pairing people off seemed to be all the rage for every other character, so to leave Toph all by herself just seems a little peculiar, doesn't it? But whether Toph wanted a man or not, I really think it boils down to her not wanting anyone to tell her what to do. So in that regard, she just remained a rolling stone forever. Anyways, with Toph's 2 girls being 6 years apart and both of them not knowing their fathers but knowing that they have different fathers, that does leave some serious questions as to who these baby daddies are. Canonically, Lin's father is Kanto, a character we never get to see. But who is that? It's really a very anticlimactic answer considering Toph had a little flirty flirt going on with both Zuko and Sokka. But hey, Zuko had Mei by the end of the series and Sokka had Suki, so there really wasn't anybody left to pair Toph off with. So maybe Toph did just live her life jumping around with randos because all the good men were taken. Who knows? We don't judge here. Still though, you would think if Lin got her father's name, she would use her resources to hunt him down. It's not like Toph lived in a bunch of places before Lin was born. It was basically the Avatar journey and then founding Republic City where Toph stayed until she retired. So it makes me suspicious that Kanto is an answer, but not necessarily the truthful answer. You know what The Legend of Korra makes crystal clear? And it's actually why a lot of people don't like it. It shows us that life is messy and complicated and there are feelings oozing out of everybody's shoes. So when you have Toph establishing the police force for Republic City, a town founded by Zuko and Aang, which naturally means that Sokka and Katara would be heavily involved as well, that does put the gang in very close proximity to each other to have more sparks flying off everywhere. Keep in mind, during the Avatar series, the cast ranges from about 12 to 15 years old, so some of them haven't even hit puberty yet. And now here they are in their older teens and early adulthood, forming this new republic, and you know, that leaves a lot of space for some awkward romantic tension to really blossom. So who's to say? Maybe Toph really did temporarily fall for a guy named Kanto, and then maybe she got tired of him, maybe he was too controlling, or you know, whatever happened, but Toph really doesn't like to be tied down. She likes to be free and left to her own devices and having nobody tell her what to do or having to get anybody's decision or input on anything else. So realistically, Toph and marriage might not be things that go together. Even a serious relationship might be too much of a stretch for Toph to really consider in her life. Now, I could see Toph doing a few romantic entanglements that never got uncomfortably serious, and the best way to have those kind of flings and make sure nobody gets too attached is to go go after somebody who's unavailable. So looking at Lin, her face shape, her general attitude, the way in which she carries herself, she seems to strongly line up with features that Zuko has. Of course, you could never publicly reveal that Fire Lord Zuko has a love child. Oh, the scandal. So either Toph started dating Kanto for a cover story, or she just made up the name so that Lin and Zuko had an extra layer of protection. If you notice, May is never once mentioned in the entire Legend of Korra series. But we do see Zuko, his daughter, and his grandson multiple times. So did May pass away? Did Zuko and May not get married at all? Or did infidelity cause May to leave Zuko? All answers are probable, but Zuko and May were always very on again, off again. And even if you just look at the body language between Zuko and his daughter, it feels very strained. Almost like he did something that hurt their family in this unforgivable way. And cheating on Mama with Toph would certainly do the trick. There's also this dismissive animosity that Zuko's daughter has for Republic City. It's as if the very place that her father helped to build just offends her to her core. But consider that Lin is basically one of the top leaders of Republic City, and that they are very similar in age, which does kind of play more into the idea that Zuko could have broken up his family with an affair. Maybe not publicly, but definitely internally. And that would make his acknowledged daughter furious, and Lin having no idea why her life feels so cloak and dagger. And all of that frustration over not knowing who her father is makes Lin Zuko levels of angry. I mean, everything. Lin is just furious, fuming at a 10, just waiting to burst and boil over. Now, is that definitely proof that Lin is Zuko's illegitimate daughter? No, but the Legend of Korra has purposefully made its lore shrouded in mystery, probably because the conversation is worth more than the actual answers. Also consider that Lin doesn't just have that immovable earthbender demeanor. She has this intense, unwavering fire to prove herself and earn her mother's approval, which sounds strangely parallel to Zuko's own life story, doesn't it? To the contrary, Suyin doesn't have the sturdy personality of an earthbender or any kind of flaming passion of a firebender. And that's because Su doesn't burn, she flows. Whatever life tosses at her, she doesn't fight against it, she just goes with the flow and makes the best of it. So Suyin is always chasing opportunities. Personality-wise, that would make her father more suited to be an air nomad or someone from the water tribe. Now, true, Suyin's skin tone is on the darker side, so a water tribe father seems most likely. However, don't forget that the Earth Kingdom also has tons of darker skinned citizens too. So Suyin's darker skin tone could be more linked to a distant relative than a father. Just based on Suyin's personality and the candidates that we know we had during that time, that really just leaves us Aang and Sokka as potential daddies. Now, even though Aang is a very realistic possibility because, as I've speculated before, he and Katara would have had a very strained relationship after a while, and Aang really felt the pressure of having to recreate the Air Nation before he died. So who's to say, maybe Aang had an understanding with Katara that while he was traveling the world, he was allowed to repopulate it with airbenders along the way. Just saying it out loud sounds so wrong. Plus, Opal, Toph's granddaughter, ends up having airbending abilities, so it could have been a recessive gene that reawakened with harmonic convergence. I mean, all of the new airbenders they found did come from the Earth Kingdom, and that's probably because the ancient air nomads sort of wandered over to the Earth Kingdom to spread their genetic material, if you get my drift. You know, the Fire Nation and the Water Tribes weren't very welcoming of outsiders, so the Earth Kingdom was the best place for an airbender to go. Or even children born to the Air Nation who do not have airbending and so they want to go do other things with their lives. Since they're monks and they don't have nuclear family units, I kind of feel like people would have wandered out of there from time to time at least. But even saying that out loud, it does make it less likely that Aang would be the father of Suyin, just because there are so many Earth Kingdom citizens who end up airbending. Unless, of course, Aang really got busy during his travels. However, when looking at Sokka, a lot more issues seem to line up. Now, Toph doesn't let people very close to her very easily, and we do know that Suki continues her work with the Kyoshi Warriors, which means she would be out of town a lot, and Suki's life would be constantly in danger, so we don't even know if she made it to old age. I mean, you can only have a position like the Kyoshi Warriors until you slip up, and there's always a young person gunning for you, so it'd be easy to die in that line of work, which means it's very possible that either Suki died or she had a falling out with Sokka somewhere along their long-distance relationship. That would give Sokka a vulnerability where he might want to pour his heart out to one of his closest friends, and in those situations, it's very easy for a little something something to happen. And of course, Toph couldn't really name Sokka as the father here either because it would reflect really badly on both of them. If you think about it, you have one of the councilmen for Republic City and the chief of police, and they're commingling. Well, now we have all sorts of special favoritism and illegal things going on that shouldn't be, so best to keep that zipped up into yourself. And it's something that could be even more damaging if Suki wasn't really out of the picture, if she was just working over in the Fire Nation and Sokka did the dirty with somebody else. Ruh-roh. So then if you add a baby into that kind of no-no relationship, well, now what? My personal guess, Katara would have inserted herself in ways that would be so uncomfortable to Toph. For all of Katara's strengths, she is really judgmental and smothering of other people, so I could see her trying to force a marriage or even pushing to take over the baby from poor blind Toph. And that's not what Taka was about. It was two friends who had a moment together, but they just weren't right to share a life. So Suyin was born with no father named, and she went on to do all sorts of interesting things. And the fact that Sokka isn't a bender actually would support and be helpful for Suyin becoming a metal bender, because as we saw with Aang and Katara, when you have two different elements, the children are sort of a mixed bag. But with Tenzin and Pema, if one is a bender and one's not, then it tends to take over genetically and all of the kids are benders. So for Suyin to have powers, it suggests that her father either was a metal bender too, which, I mean, it's just not really in her personality. You see none of that her Earth Kingdomness in Suyin at all. She's very easy breezy, wavy gravy. So if Dad was not a fellow Earth or metal bender, then he would have been a non-bender for her to become such a good, powerful metal bender, if that makes sense. I have also heard it argued that the creator said Sokka didn't die young, he moved out to the suburbs for whatever that means. Now that kind of sounds like something you do after you screw up big time and you cannot lead your city anymore. Just like when Suyin got busted with the Terra Triad, Toph ended up stepping down as the chief of police because she didn't feel worthy of the badge. If Toph and Sokka knew that their little something wasn't good, that may have had a similar effect on Sokka stepping down from the council. And you know, if Sokka and Toph did have a fling while Suki was still in the picture, that could definitely prompt Sokka to run off to the burbs. Again, just like with Lin's father, I can't pull out any exact proof to say that Suyin and Sokka are related, but Suyin not only matches a Toph-Sokka skin tone combo, she also has a thing for meteorites, which is something that Sokka also shares an affinity for, and it just feels like two really big dots that the creators want us to connect. It might not be reality, but theories are more fun. Toph's oldest daughter Lin followed her into the forest while... Forced? It's almost strange that Toph never finds any kind of romantic fulfillment in Avatar: The Last Airbender or The Legend of... I can't speak today. Did that sound okay? I was like totally out of oxygen there. I don't know. So who's to say? Maybe Toph did really fall for a guy named Kanto. Maybe Toph really did temporarily fall for a guy named Kanto. He and Katara would have had a very strained relationship, and Aang felt the pressure of recreating the Earth Nation all on... Earth Nation, what is wrong with me? She just adjusts and goes with the flow of whatever's happening. And makes the best of it. You know, the Fire Nation and the Water Tribes wouldn't be very welcoming of outsiders, so the Earth Kingdom was a good place for the Earthbender. If somebody knew that Toph and Sokka had a little something going on, and they were... Uh-oh! Well, family members, we're almost done, but I want to invite you to hang out with me in some other places. I'm on Twitter, and Instagram as my own personal self, and I have a Facebook page too, but I mostly just post photos over there. And sometimes people say, "Hey McGann, I want to mail you something. How do I do that?" Easy. Just click the About tab on my channel page, and my most current P.O. Box info will be right there. I also run another channel, The Family. It's really a hodgepodge channel where we might post anything. Oh yeah, and I also sell shirts and stickers and stuff with the Family and the Fangirl logos. If that is your cup of tea, I have a link in every description of every video. Finally, if you want to help out the Fangirl channel and make sure I'm putting out video essays for years to come, the best way you can help is by subscribing and watching more of my videos, whether they're new, old, whatever. Maybe even share one or two on social media, help spread the word. People who watch to the end of videos like you helps to tell the site, "Hey, this is a good video, we should recommend it to other people." So if you made it this far, leave me a comment of something like, "Hey, I made it to the end. Love ya. See you next time, family members. Bye."